Welcome to Misha Madness and Motivation Podcast. This podcast is for anyone wanting to evolve in every aspect of their life. Do you want to be better and live life to your fullest potential? Tune in with your host, blogger, entrepreneur, and beauty executive, Misha.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Misha. And if you are new here, welcome. I usually don't have any content that is exclusively for the YouTube channel of Misha's Madness and Motivation. But today, first of everything, as you can tell by the title, today is the day that I tell you of all of the books that made it to my list of books that I plan to read for 2022. I believe out there on BookTube, they call it a TBR list, your to be read list. If you've watched the last video, then you know that I'm going to be reading Paranisi just for myself, not with the book club, but I'm definitely going to be reading this really soon. I did pick it up this weekend. So I already have it. I'm going to read it on my Kindle and I'm really excited to get into it. So this book was on my list, but there's I guess I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I will just read the description really quickly. So it's basically about Paranisi, and he is in a house, and it's not an ordinary house, it says, and the rooms are infinite, the corridors are endless, the walls are lined with thousands upon thousands of statues, each one different from all the others. Within the labyrinth of staircases, rooms are flooded in an instant. But Paranisi is not afraid. He understands the tides as he understands the pattern of the labyrinth itself. He lives to explore the house. But as Paranisi explores, evidence emerges of another person, and a terrible truth begins to unravel, revealing a world beyond the one Paranisi has always known. So it is sounding like a mystery kind of thriller type of book. I'm going to be reading it. And I invite you, if you want to speed read it with me for the rest of January, you're welcome to do so. If you've already read it, please tell me about your experience with the book, because I also saw like people like either really loved it or they thought it was really pointless. So let me know where you stand on that. And I can't wait to, let you guys know where I stand on that as well. But I will be reading that this January. The next book that did make my list and that is going to be read with the book club beginning in February is The Appeal by Janice Hallett. And it is One Murder, 15 Students. Can you uncover the truth? So it is a murder mystery, and it's a murder mystery. They are law students, and they are basically someone is in jail for this murder, and they are basically like trying to figure out who did it. They feel like the person who is in jail for the murder, they feel like innocent. So they're like, if they're innocent, then who commit the murder? So I'm really interested in that. The next book that made the list that I'm not sure when I'm going to read it. I don't know if it's going to be an add-on. I don't know, but I heard about Severance by Ling Ma, and I hope I'm saying her name correctly. In Severance, I'm going to look up the description now so I can read it like verbatim what it says, but this was one of the books that made it to the list. And if you've ever read this book, let me know what your experience was down below. I haven't really seen too much talk about it, which is interesting, but it's a novel. The description says Candace Chin, a millennial drone self-sequestered in a Manhattan office tower, is devoted to routine. With the recent passing of her Chinese immigrant parents, she's had her fill of uncertainty. She's content just to carry on. She goes to work, troubleshoots the teen targeted gemstone Bible, watches movies in a Greenpoint basement with her boyfriend. So Candace barely notices when a plague of biblical proportions sweeps New York. Then sheen fever spreads, families flee, Companies cease operations. The subway screeched to a halt. Her bosses enlist her as a part of a dwindling skeleton crew with a big end date payoff. Soon, entirely alone, still unfevered, she photographs the eerie abandoned city as the anonymous blogger New York Ghosts. Candace won't be able to make it on her own forever, though. Enter a group of survivals. Enter a group of survivors led by the power-hungry IT tech Bob. They're traveling to a place called the Facility, where Bob promises they will have everything they need to start society anew. But Candace is carrying a secret she knows Bob will exploit. Should she escape from her rescuers? A send up and take down of rituals, routines, and missed opportunities of contemporary life, Ling Ma's Severance is a moving family story, a quirky coming of adulthood tale, and the hilarious deadpan satire. Most important, it's a heartfelt tribute to the connections that drive us to do more than survive. So, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like really, really good to me. So, this definitely made my list. Let me know if you, like I said, ever read this book, or if you plan to read this book. Maybe we can read it together in the book club. That would be a lot of fun. This next book, I saw a lot of people had it on their list or have already read it, and they have it in like their best books or whatever, which isn't actually why I decided to like want to read it. It actually did sound pretty interesting. So the next book is Normal People by, who is this book by? Sally Rooney. So Normal People by Sally Rooney. And the cover isn't really, anything, I mean, it's pretty normal. So the description of this book, it says, Connell and Marianne grew up in the same small town, but there's similarities in there. At school, Connell is popular and well-liked, while Marianne is a loner. But when the two strike up a conversation, awkward but electrifying, something life-changing begins. A year later, they're both studying at Trinity College in Dublin. Marianne has found her feet in a new social world, while Connell hangs at the sidelines, shy and uncertain. Throughout their years at university, Marianne and Connell circle one another, straying toward other people and possibilities, but always magnetically, irresistibly drawn back together. And as she veers into self-destruction and he begins to search for meaning elsewhere, each must confront how far they are willing to go to save the other. Ooh. It makes me excited again because like some of these books, I kind of forgot what they were about, but you know how you like read a description and you're like, oh, that sounds interesting. And you put it on your list and then, yeah, I kind of just forgot what it's about, but that sounds very romantic. And I love that I have a romance because if you also saw my last video, I was like, bro, I really seem to be into thrillers and scientific fantasies and mostly just thrillers and scientific fantasies. So I'm excited to see some romance made the list. The next book that I have, let me just take a sip. But the next book is Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May. I'm going to show you guys the cover. It looks very enchanted, if you will. So this description says, on Crow Island, people whisper. Real magic lurks just below the surface. New to the idyllic summer gateway, Annie Mason is confident those are only rumors. Magic, the kind that leaves soldiers shell-shocked and families heartbroken, has been prohibited since the war ended. Now, the closest anyone gets are party tricks designed for the rich and the aimless. Neither real magic nor faux magic interests Annie, not after it stole her future. She's only on the island to settle her late father's estate and hopefully reconnect with her long-lost absent best friend Beatrice, who fled their dreary lives for a more glamorous one. Yet, Crow Island is brimming with temptation, and the biggest one may be her enigmatic new neighbor, mysterious and alluring Emmeline Delacroix is a figure shadowed by rumors of witchcraft. And when Annie witnesses a confrontation between Beatrice and Emmeline at one of the island's extravagant parties, she is drawn into a glittering haunted world, a world where the boundaries of wickedness are tested and the cost of illicit magic might be death. So I don't know, it sounds magical. It sounds something like I would be into. Again, it is a little longer than, you know, the other books, but that is one that made my list. Another one that sound really interesting to me is a novel. Ariel writes by Hannah Kent. And this sounds like such a sad story. And I don't want to read a bunch of sad stuff, but I love heartfelt things. Like I love, this is going to sound so psycho, but I love when a book can make me cry. And this book is 353 pages, and it says it's set against Iceland's stark landscape. Hannah Kent brings a vivid story to life of Agnes, who is charged with a brutal murder of hold on. Okay. Agnes, who is charged with the brutal murder. Why can't I talk? So Agnes is charged with a brutal murder of her former master, and she's sent to an isolated farm to await execution. So, horrified at the prospect of housing a convicted murderer, the family at first avoids Agnes. A priest Agnes has mysteriously chosen to be her spiritual guardian seeks to understand her. But as Agnes's death looms, the former's wife and their daughter learn there is another side to the sensational story they've heard. Riveting and rich with lyricism, Burial Rites evokes a dramatic existence in a distant time and place and asks the question, how can one woman hope to endure when her life depends upon the stories told by others? Yeah, so go look up reviews for this book, because this book, I feel like this has to probably be like a book club pick, because it just seems like one of those really deep touching reads that I'm going to want to have to share with my people that are going to read with me. Which so far is just me and a couple of friends, but hopefully, some more people want to read. I mean, this I really like the sound of this book. So another book that made my list, this is actually a memoir. So this is basically like based on a true story, I believe. And I am excited to see what it's about. I hear it's a really powerful story, and that's what made me want to read it. So the description says, in the dream house, Carmen is engrossing and wildly innovative account of a relationship gone bad, and a bold dissection of the mechanisms and cultural representations of psychological abuse. Tracing the full arc of a harrowing relationship with a charismatic but volatile woman, Machado struggles to make sense of how what happened to her shaped the person she was becoming. So it is a memoir about an abusive relationship, and I just heard really good things. Like I heard that it was very nicely written and that the story is just really powerful. So I definitely put that on the list of, what I wanted to read. I also want to read a book. This book. So the cover off the rip, I was just like, do I want to read something like that? But I actually got the recommendation from a black girl. And she's like, no, this book is really good. So what it's about is like, oh my goodness. Let me make sure I describe it correctly. So it's it's won a lot of awards. So this is the book takes place in 1915. The birth of a nation casts a spell across America, swelling the Klan's ranks and drinking deep from the darkest thoughts of white folk. All across the nation they ride, spreading fear and violence among the vulnerable. They plan to bring hell to earth, but even Ku Kluxes can die. Standing in their way is Marcy Bordeaux. Bourgeois. I have to figure that one out. But standing in their way is Marcy and her fellow resistance fighters, a foul-mouthed sharpshooter and a Harlem hellfighter. Armed with blade, bullet, and bomb, they hunt their hunters and send the Klan's demons straight to hell. But something awful's brewing in Macon, and the war on hell is about to heat up. Can Marcy stop the Klan before it ends the world? So I basically, oh man. So basically, what I heard about this book was that there are like these spirits, like these evil spirits, basically. I don't know. I'm excited to find out actually when I read the book. But what I basically get is that there's these evil spirits that get into white people and basically turn them into Ku Kluxes. And Marcy, the main character, she is fighting these evil spirits and killing them off basically with her group of people. And it sounds like, she's like fighting against time. She's fighting against time. Like, are you going to be able to kill all these evil spirits before the end of the world kind of thing? And I have to put my like my curiosity to rest, with a cover like this. I definitely have to get into it and just see, like, really it, I just have to see. I have to see it for myself and know what is going on in there. The next book that made the next book that made the list for me. So the next book that I'm excited. Now this book is like one of the ones that is like at the top of my list. It's called Leave the World Behind. Are you kidding? So I heard the same about this book. People either hated it or they absolutely loved it. And I don't know, maybe I like polarizing feels like that. Like, um, am I gonna like it? Am I gonna enjoy it? But basically, the synopsis of this book is I believe there's a couple, and they're on vacation. They leave the city. They don't leave, but they're on vacation and they're staying in like they're renting an Airbnb, and there's like this huge bang. Like they hear this bang, and then not too long after, the owners of the Airbnb pop up and they're like, something happened in the city. There's a blackout, and like they're not getting any cell reception, and neither is the couple that's at the Airbnb. Like when they heard the bang, their reception went out as well, but they're like in the middle of nowhere. So like, where are they gonna go? But when the owners come back, they're like, the reception went out, and we just basically came here because we know how to get here. This is our property. Like, we know how to get to our property, and we know that I guess they felt that they would be safe there. So from my understanding, the book is like basically like this. It's like a thought-provoking book. A lot of people say like nothing really happens, but there's like supposedly this tension between, can I trust the owners of this Airbnb? Like, what's really going on in the outside world? Can I believe what they're saying is happening out there, or like, can I believe of what they're saying basically to me? And there's other things that are said in the book. I was told that makes you think just about life, in general. So I love a good thought-provoking book. And I'm just interested because that sounds like so relatable, right? Or like not even relatable, but just stuff that we see on TV with like that we're afraid to happen. And we book Airbnbs all the time. People go and they book cabins all the time and villas, and imagine you being away from home and someone else's home and like the world just goes freaking black. Like the grid is like no longer, you have no choice at that moment but to trust who you're around. And I they got me at the whole, I was interested. So another book that I really, really am excited to read, it has to do with extraterrestrials, and I like that. It's called The Three Body Problem, and let's just read what it's about, and then I'll just go through the list of books and let you guys know what else, basically what else is on my list, and let me know if any of these books are on your list. So, The Three Body Problem, and what this book is about, it says, set against the backdrop of China's Cultural Revolution, a secret military project sends signals into space to establish contact with aliens. An alien civilization on the brink of destruction captures the signal and plans to invade Earth. Meanwhile, on Earth, different camps start forming, planning to either welcome the superior beings and help them take over a world seen as corrupt, or to fight against the invasion. The result is a science fiction masterpiece of enormous scope and vision. So, so excited, so excited. I definitely like, this is another one that's like on the top, one of those ones on the top of my list. So I don't know how many books I just went through, but let me just read all of the books that I haven't so far. So I definitely have on here The Girl Who Drank the Moon. I don't know if anyone's ever read that book, but that is on my list as well. The Shadow of the Wind is on here, Song of Achilles. There are some books that are coming out this year that I added to my list as well. They're not out yet though. On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I am actually excited to read this book because I don't know. I heard that it makes you feel all the feels, and so I'm interested to see what's going on with this book. Actually, let me just go ahead and read the description. So it says, "On Earth, we're briefly gorgeous." It's a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read. Written when the speaker, Little Dog, is in his late 20s. The letter unearths a family's history that began before he was born. A history whose epicenter is rooted in Vietnam and serves as a doorway into parts of his life his mother has never known. All of it leading to an unforgettable revelation. At once a witness to the fraught yet undeniable love between a single mother and her son, it is also a brutally honest exploration of race, class, and masculinity, asking questions central to our American moment, immersed as we are in addiction, violence, and trauma, but undergirded by compassion and tenderness. On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous is much about the power of telling one's own story as it is about the obliterating silence of not being heard. So that is on there. Remote Control. I have that cover, and I'm excited to read this book as well. And the last book that is on here that I'm interested in reading, and I can't wait to actually not have so many books on here and just to be able to say, oh, I read them. The last book that I will share with you guys that I do plan to read that is actually really on it's like at the top is Monday's Not Coming, and it is a story. I hear that it's like for like a young adult. It is a young adult fiction book, but it was written to bring awareness on the disappearance of many Black women, girls from the DC area. And this book is actually about two young girls. I believe they're around the age 13 or 14, 12 or 13, 14. And this one girl is basically, she's best friends with Monday, and she keeps asking like, well, where is Monday? And everyone's basically telling her that Monday's not coming, or she's with this person, she's with that person. And she's like, well, my friend is missing and no one is noticing. Like everyone is just kind of brushing her off and telling her, oh, she's with another family member, or oh, she's just not coming to school today, or no, I haven't seen her, or I haven't talked to her, or she's been around, but like they're not worried. And you find out basically, following along the main character, her best friend, you basically find out what happened to Monday. And that's all I'm going to give you, because I definitely want to read it and find out for myself, more about it. I did tell you guys that I put some self-help books on my list, and I did put some self-help books on my list. However, this video is pretty long, and I will make a separate video on self-help books that I plan to read in 2022. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. And let me know if there's anything on this list that I need to add. Actually, not anything on the list, but if I need to add anything on my list, please let me know. And yes, the books that haven't come out yet that I'm interested most in reading, I'll also do a video on that soon. For now, these are the books that are on my to be read list for 2022 so far. I am actually gonna get started with Piranesi by Susanna Clark this week. Okay, this week I just bought the book, so I'm really excited to get into it, and I will update you guys soon on that mystery. Please leave me recommendations in the comments, and thank you again so much for tuning in. Bye.